Excellent. Okay. So now that we are ready to record, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Monica Shah for her as a guest speaker here today, and she will be speaking on creating your revenue breakthrough. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Can you hear me okay, Mary Beth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to be talking to you about creating your revenue breakthrough, 4 steps to monetize your marketing and double your income in the next 90 days. I just got back from my own 3-day event, and it was called Money 2.0, and I was thrilled. We had over 200 people in the room, and we had a really great transformational experience around money. And it's one of the things that I find to be one of the key missing pieces is for entrepreneurs is that we're trying to build businesses, we're trying to do the marketing, we're trying to do the sales, we're trying to innovate, and yet our sort of money house is in chaos. And when you're doing that, it's a bit like building a house on a really weak foundation. So I'm glad to spend the time today, and I'm so glad for Savvy Ladies as an organization all together, that we're all working together to really build a strong foundation when it comes to money. Now, in terms of flipping the slides, will you be flipping the slides for me? Megan or Mary Beth?
Yes.
Okay.
Just do me a favor and let me know when you want me to go.
Okay, you could go ahead and flip. Great. So here's what's interesting about business, and specifically about money, is that there's a tendency for us to look at things and make a mountain out of what is a molehill. So I'll tell you a story to start out with. I grew up only talking to animals. So really until the age of about 18, I didn't have a lot of interaction with people. And because of that, I worked at a zoo all growing up, and I decided that I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I went to college, and the summer between my junior and senior year in college, I actually did an internship with 2 horse veterinarians. Now, the horse veterinarian, that one of them was very, very famous for his ability to sort of solve the Hail Mary cases, meaning the cases where they couldn't fix, they brought in a lot of other veterinarians and they couldn't fix it. And one particular day, we were called in because one of the horses was sick. Now, this particular horse, her name was Maiden. Now, Maiden was a relative of one of the horses who had won the Kentucky Derby. And because she was a relative of that, she was treated very well. And we walked onto the horse farm, and literally her stall was as big as my New York apartment. Like I could have just lived in the corner and no one would have even noticed. And she had beautiful clean hay. She had 2 or 3 keepers around her, and she wasn't feeling well. And they had brought in 3 different veterinarians before they brought us in. Now, one of the things that I did really well with the veterinarian I worked with is that I could sense pain on an animal, like the spots where the pain was. And so as I walked around the horse or whatever animal we were working on, he would put the needles in. So we get there that day, and Maiden her back foot was shuffling, and her head was down, and her tail was going back and forth even though there were no flies around, and her coat was really dull, and she just looked ragged and sort of like a flower who had wilted. And the first vet that had come in had tried to do some x-rays to figure out what was wrong internally, and that was really hard on her. And the second vet that came in gave her medications, and she had some really bad side effects from the medications. And the third vet that had come in had done some manipulation, around her belly area, because that's where they thought it was coming from, and she still hadn't responded to that. So I walked around the horse, and I noticed where the pain point was, and one by one, the veterinarian followed me, and he put in one needle and the second needle and the third needle and the fourth needle. And we put in no more than about 8 needles. And then we stepped back and we just let her be. And within about 15 minutes, she raised her head and she started eating. And within about 20 minutes, she was walking around. In about 30 minutes, everything stopped. Her foot stopped shuffling, her tail stopped going, and we could see sort of the life come back into her eyes. And within about 60 minutes, one of her keepers was able to get on and ride her. And it was an amazing transformation. And what was so interesting about that transformation was that it occurred in a very simple way. We didn't do the x-ray machine. We didn't give her big horse pills. We didn't have to do a lot of manipulation or anything with her body. It was a very simple shift that led to a full quantum leap. And I've never forgotten that, because I feel like this lesson of simple shifts leads to quantum leaps is so applicable in business. Because what we have a tendency to do is overcomplicate. There's really simple things that we should be focusing on, and yet we overcomplicate the matter. So, for example, one of my clients called the other day, and she was really panicking because she had done 6 sales conversations and nobody had said yes. So we stopped and we paused, and she said, okay, here's what the problem is. I've done 6 sales conversations and no one has said yes. And so I think that I need to go back and get a new degree, and I think I need to change my target, and I think I need a new website, and I think I need a new tagline, and I think I need new branding, and I also think I need a makeover because I just don't think I represent my brand. So she'd already in her mind determined exactly all of the things that she needed to change in her business, and she was totally panicking. She's like, I don't know how I'm going to do all of this. I don't have the money to do all of it. It's, I don't know what to do. And I paused, and I said, okay, so possibly you may need to do all of those things, but I think what we need to focus on here is your sales conversation and what's going on, because it may just be a simple shift. So she paused, and she said, and I said, what's going on? And it turned out that she was selling a group program. So she was in the service industry. And she didn't actually trust all the components of the group program. And so because of that, she was not very confident about selling it. And the thing about a sales conversation is I call sales conversations conversations of truth. Imparting truth from one person to the person in front of you about how you can serve and help them and where they're going to be able to step into as a result of working with you. And if you don't believe that your program is the best thing around from the bottom of your toes to the top of your head, then it's very hard for that person in front of you to say, yes, I'm going to pay you money for it. And we realized that for her, she needed to change the program around. So we did. We changed the program around, and she got a lot more confident. She went in, and she had 4 more sales conversations the next day, and she closed 3 out of 4 of them. Simple shifts lead to quantum leaps. And what I'm going to show you today is some really simple shifts you can make about thinking and looking at money in your business. And some of you are going to hear this and think, well, I can do that, and I can get a new website and a new logo design and some videos created, and then I can do, write a book. And all of those activities are great, but oftentimes the problem is that we're trying to do all of them at once. And because of that, we're not very effective at any one piece in our business. So I'm going to ask you to keep it simple and listen to the steps. And when you focus on these, you're going to start to see a quantum leap in your business. So we change the slide? So a little bit about me so you know who I am. I can tell you for certain this lesson that I just told you about simple shifts was not something that I knew a lot about. Because I'll tell you, I've done anything and everything to help my business. And it really became a business of brute force instead of ease and grace when I was doing that. So my background is that I went to the Kellogg School of Management. I got my MBA there. And I left out of Kellogg and I got my degree. I left out of Kellogg after I got my degree, and I went to L'Oreal Paris to work as a marketing manager. Now, L'Oreal was like getting a PhD in marketing. It was an amazing experience. However, there was one particular moment when I was working at L'Oreal where the plant had broken down that day, and there was a bottle that we needed to have created, and the machine for that bottle had broken down. So they sent me to Neiman Marcus to Saks. It was Saks, and to pick up lotion bottles, like a whole variety of different lotion bottles, so we could figure out what bottle we were going to use at the plant. And it was 2 a.m. that night, and I'm sitting in front of my manager, and literally I'm opening up a lotion bottle, pouring out the lotion, looking at the lid. Opening up a lotion bottle, pouring out the lotion, looking at the lid. Opening up a lotion bottle, pouring out the lotion, looking at the lid. Opening up a lotion bottle, pouring out the lotion, looking at the lid. And I look up, and my manager looks at me, and her eyes are totally glistening. And she says to me, "Monica, isn't this the best thing you've ever done?" And I looked at her, and I was like, have we gone into the Twilight Zone? Because it was at that moment that I realized I would rather be doing anything else but doing this. That if I had my choice, I would rather be at home sleeping rather than doing this. But when I looked at her, I realized that what has kept her going, she was only a year older than me, and she had shot up the corporate ladder so quickly. And the reason she had shot up so quickly is because she had passion for the business, a passion that I didn't share. And that was required for you to really be doing things at 2 a.m. in the morning, the things that you don't want to be doing. And I realized then that I needed to figure out what that was for me. So it wasn't long after that I left out and started my first company, Ideal Balance. And I thought I was hot shit. I did. I thought because I had the MBA and the degree from L'Oreal, the experience from L'Oreal, that I was going to be able to handle this entrepreneur thing. And as many of you can probably relate to, I leapt out, and it was a little bit like diving into a pool of like ice cold water, because it was hard, and I didn't know how to do things. And within about 18 months of leaping out, I had accumulated about $25,000 in debt. And I actually think that there's I don't think debt is bad. I think there's great debt that you can spend on your business. And so it wasn't so much the debt itself that concerned me. It was the fact that I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was like I was working all the time, but not really getting the return that I wanted to get and the results that I wanted to get in my business. And because of that, I would do everything possible I could to make money, from cat sitting to dog walking to any sort of money hustling that came about. And one of the things that I did as I hustled for money is rent my apartment out in New York City, because you can rent your apartment out with Airbnb or Roomorama, these sort of organizations, and you get $100 or $200 sometimes a night for your apartment, because it's so much cheaper for people to stay in your apartment than it is to rent a hotel room. And so because of that, I would often rent my apartment out, and at first I would rent it out for 1 or 2 or 3 nights a month, just to kind of make ends meet. But as my business I started to demand more of my business. It started to get more and more. And there was one particular morning that I had been out of my apartment for about 8 days. I had slept on one person's couch for 3 days, another for another 3 days, and another for another 2 days. It got to the point where I was sleeping on so many people's couches that when my friends introduced me to people, they would say, "Now Monica's going to introduce herself to you, and she's going to ask you if you have an extra bed, but it's not because she's hitting on you. It's because she just really needs an extra couch to sleep on." It was a little bit silly. And that particular morning, I was washing dishes, and I thought to myself, gosh, I've become a better dishwasher than an entrepreneur, because that's what I did to thank everybody whose apartment I would stay on, is wash their dishes. And then I walked her dog, and I didn't even have a dog, and yet I was walking her dog. And then I needed to burn about 4 hours between when I was able to go back to my apartment and when I was to leave her. So I took all my food from her refrigerator and packed all my bags, got on the subway. I got out of the subway, and it was 56th Street on the BDFQ. And I stopped at the bottom of the stairs, and I had 2 bags on one arm, 3 bags on another arm, 1 bag that was kind of over my shoulder across my chest. I was carrying a bag of food in my left hand, and in my right hand, I was rolling a roller bag with all of my clothes rolled up in it. And as I was walking up the stairs of the subway, it was like every step was getting higher and longer and higher and longer, and the New Yorkers were running by me, knocking bags off my shoulder and knocking the roller bag, and, I wanted to look at them and be like, stop that. But it was so interesting because in that moment when I looked at them, I realized that I had become that annoying person that we all, are annoyed by, that person who, was taking too long to get up the stairs, is taking too much room, and you just want to be like, why do you have all those bags? Why are you interrupting everybody's flow? And I thought, God, I'd become that annoying person. So I kept walking up the stairs, and I turned right, and I looked up, and the escalator was broken, and the elevator wasn't working that day, and there were literally 3 more flights of stairs to get up to street level. And it was at that moment that I just got really tired. And I realized, I don't want to do this anymore. I realized that I was exhausted and overwhelmed. And I realized that I either needed to figure this thing out or get a job. Because in the process of what was going on, I had become a virtual bag lady. And it was not where I wanted to be. It's not where I planned on getting to. And so I got really clear that day that I was going to figure out how to make consistent, sustainable money in my business, and that if I didn't figure it out, I was going back to get a job. And I did. I spent the next 18 months figuring it out. And I tried a lot of things to figure it out. I hired coaches. I read books. I went back to my friends at business school. I talked to my father, who's also an entrepreneur, who sold his company in college. And I did a lot of different things. And what I realized in the end of the day is that I was doing everything in the wrong order. So I was focusing on the wrong activities in the wrong order at the wrong time. And what I really needed to focus on first was the money piece and figuring out how much money I wanted to make. And then from there, figuring out what marketing activities were going to get me there the fastest. And from there, following a plan, analyzing and tracking and shifting the plan. But what I did instead is that I did a lot of different things that didn't actually generate income. So I remember in the first year of my business, I decided, okay, now I want to write a book. Now, there's nothing wrong with writing a book at all. I actually just wrote one. I just published it. I just put it out at my 3-day event. But when I wrote my book back in year 1, I was spending 20 to 30 hours a week writing instead of selling. So I would get to the middle of the month and still have trouble paying rent, even though I was doing all of this work. It just was the wrong order, the wrong timing to be able to do it. In another case, I put out a product launch, and only 6 people bought the product, even though I spent $15,000 creating the product line and the website. And that was because at that point in time, there was only 1,000 people on my list. And there just wasn't enough people to buy the product. And so again, nothing wrong with products, nothing wrong with product launches, but you have to be able to have the right relationships and the right list size and the right volume in order to have people buy. And so again, wrong order, wrong time. And when I finally got it, when I got the steps in place, is when I was finally able to really move forward in my business. And I was able to take the money that I was making then and paid off the $25,000 when I really started focusing on the right activities at the right time, put money in the bank. I put about $12,000 in the bank that year, and every year thereafter, we've doubled or tripled our revenue. So if you could flip the slide. And today, this is a picture, if you're watching here on the slide presentation, of some of my clients and I. And last year, revenue breakthrough crossed 750,000. We're on track to cross 7 figures as of this year. And the best part about all of it is that my clients are amazing, I love what I'm doing, and that I can finally sleep in my own bed on a regular basis. So today we're going to cover some of those steps, focusing on money first, understanding the way that money works, understanding what your value is, and we're going to get started at looking at, okay, what is the right order and what should you be focusing on now to really create a revenue breakthrough in your business. Next slide, and then next slide. So here are the 4 steps. We're going to understand your relationship with money is step 1. Step 2 is tracking. Step 3 is using your marketing checklist and focusing on the right activities. And step 4 is asking. So here's the thing about money. Money loves to be understood, and it loves attention. And by giving it understanding and attention, you will attract more of it. So we all know if you've been a part of Savvy Ladies for a while, that money, like sex, is a bit of a taboo. And what's interesting in our society is that we all got better at having sex by talking about it. Maybe it was behind closed doors, maybe it was secretive, but that's how we got better at it. And unfortunately, we're not doing a lot of open conversation around money. We're not getting better at it, especially as... So that's where we need to start, is really getting clear about the money piece and how to talk about it and how to understand it. Next. So the first place is to understand your money type. Next slide. So how do you relate to money? So there's 4 different kinds of money types and how you relate to money. And this is going to help you to shift into understanding money differently and really seeing how you're treating it and how that's affecting your particular business or your career right now. So first type, you're an avoider. If you're an avoider, the first type is avoiders. So if you're an avoider, you avoid looking at money. So when your bills and your mail come in, they get piled up on your desk and you don't actually look at them. And when you do look at them is usually when you get a call from one of the credit card companies saying, oh, by the way, you're late on this bill. And then you start to freak out like, oh no, maybe what else is in that pile? I should go look at that. You're an avoider if you don't know how much is in your bank account right now and you don't know how much is on your credit cards. And not that you don't know because you couldn't look, but you just don't know off the top of your head. Also an avoider if your fundamental belief is that if you look at money, you might mess things up. So a lot of my avoiders will say to me, Monica, I don't need to look at my money because I can manifest everything. And you could tell me 10 different examples of things that you can manifest, like trips that you could go on and that you've been on and people that you've manifested into your life and homes and cars and purchases and wins. And so in a lot of cases with avoiders, you feel like, hey, if I were actually to look at the money, if I were actually to look at the numbers, I might break the magic. I might actually break my ability to manifest. And so therefore, you get really scared to do it. Now, the downside to an avoider is that because you aren't looking at your numbers, there's a tendency for you to overwork and overworry. You overwork because you don't know how much work is connected to how much money that you're bringing in. And therefore, you tend to overworry because you're always worrying about bringing more money in, so that you don't actually see the concrete relationship between your work and the amount of money that you're bringing in. So I want you to know, first of all, that as an avoider, if you do have that belief that it will break the magic, I want you to get that I have worked with avoiders. I mean, I would say of entrepreneurs, this is the biggest type. So I've been working with avoiders for the past 5 years. And I can tell you one thing, your manifestation is not limited to the fact that you don't know your numbers. You're actually just a good manifester. And if you actually knew your numbers and knew clearly what you wanted to create in your life and in your business, it would just be magnified. You'd be able to magnify and create even more of what you want because you'd be very clear about it. Because you combine that equation of clarity and powerful manifestation and you get even more in your life. The next type. And we're going to go through all 4 types, and then I'm going to tell you how to kind of resolve it. So we're going to stay back. Saver too, if some people say to me, well, Monica, I'm a saver, but I don't actually make enough money to save. So I know what I'm doing with every piece of it. I know how much I spend on food. I know how much I spend on restaurants. I know how much I spend on myself, and I have everything budgeted out. So that's you too if you're a saver. You do worry a lot because as a saver, the constant worry is that you never have enough. Is there enough? There's never enough. I need more. I need to do more. I need to have more security. So there's a constant cycle in your head. And because of that, you'll often deny yourself pleasure personally, or you'll deny yourself growth opportunities in your business. One of the things that savers do is that they're afraid to take risks in their business because they're afraid of spending that money. So for example, if you're working 12-hour days, you need a new assistant, you're less likely to go get a new assistant because you'd rather put the money in the bank. If you hurt your back and you need a doctor that's not on your insurance plan, you would rather just be in pain because you're afraid of spending the money. And there's this fear that savers have of letting go, of releasing that money, afraid it won't come back. And there's this underlying belief that there just isn't enough to go around, that there isn't an infinite amount of money or energy in it. It's a belief of a saver is that often savers were the overachievers in their families. They were the ones that made everybody proud. And so whether your parents are alive or whether they're not alive, they've passed away, so a lot of times savers are saving their money as a way to show that they are still overachievers. It's a way for them to look for approval from their parents. So if you are a saver, I want you to stop and ask yourself, are you looking for approval? Whose approval are you looking for? What are you looking to gain? The third type is a spender. Now, spenders have very large credit card debt usually, and they can't pay it off every month. They rationalize their spending with, I'm worth it, or it was for the learning, right? The classic spender, as you're shopping, you're out with the girls, and your friend says to you, girl, you deserve that, right? That's a classic line of a spender. If you're somebody who is, a lot of times I'll have spenders in the personal development or personal growth industry come up to me and say, but Monica, I'm spending all of my money on really good things like books and classes and programs and coaches. And that's all good, but if you're not getting a return on investment and you're consistently and continually putting money on a card that you can't pay off, then that's usually a spender that's kind of out of balance. And the other thing to keep in mind as a spender is that you often will spend for emotional reasons instead of business reasons. So you will spend because you want to please someone, or because you want to get someone's approval, or because you're hungry and you want to fill that hole, that need, either for satisfaction or attention. And often spenders are jacks of all trades but masters of none because they would rather put money towards something than actually learn how to master it. The next group, the next type, is a martyr. Now, martyrs claim that money isn't important, but helping people is. And so often martyrs have trouble asking for money. And so these are people, you're a martyr if this is kind of what you do. You say, okay, so the cost of the investment in my program or my product is $750. But for you, I'm going to take it down to $400. And then maybe I'll take it down to $200. And maybe you could just pay $50 if that's all you want. There's some static on the line. I think we just need to mute someone.
Sure.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So great. So I'm actually not seeing the arrow to move the slides, so I'm just going to ask you to keep moving them for now.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. So the thing about martyrs is that you want to stop and give someone the time to process in terms of asking for money. And so what I'm going to do is go back through all 4 types real quick here. So just hop back to the last slide and give you how to shift every type. So if you're an avoider and you're feeling out of balance as an avoider, then what you want to do as an avoider is create a money date for yourself. And what that means is that you're going to get together with your money every week for an hour and look at everything. And I'm sure that for those of you that have been in the Savvy Ladies program for a while, this is maybe something that you're already doing. But essentially all that means is that you're going to look at your credit cards, look at your debt, look at all your numbers, and get really clear and comfortable knowing exactly where you are. And for some of you, you might say, well, Monica, if I'm the same every week, do I really need to do this? And the answer is yes. Because what you're doing is you're building the money-making muscle and the habit of looking at your money. Savers. If you're a saver and you feel like you're constantly denying yourself of pleasure, one great thing to do is start to spend your money. So you want to actually spend about 10% of your income on yourself per month. And it may not even be 10%. It may just be that you open a fun account in your bank and label it fun, and then move a certain amount of money in there, even if it's like $100 a month into that account. And your goal, in order to really trust the universe more, is to actually spend that money on yourself within 30 days, to really be able to use it on yourself. Spenders. For spenders, one thing I suggest you do, because in a lot of cases with spenders you're doing emotional spending, is that you get a money advisor or what I call a money mentor, which is somebody that you can go to ask about your spending habits. Should you spend on this? Should you spend on that? What is the reasoning? And you just want to get a friend or a coach or somebody that you can talk to before you make every spending decision to make sure that it is a solid spending decision. And you definitely want this person to be objective, so this is not normally your partner. And then the final type is the martyr, and what do you do with being a martyr here is martyrs, much of what's going on as a martyr is that you have a deep belief system that you actually can't spend money on yourself. So this is something that has occurred usually before the age of 7, that you've got some deep inset beliefs that you can't receive. And so what I call that is really figuring out what your money story is and really talking to someone about what happened with money when you were growing up. And I'm not going to be able to do that exercise with all of you in this presentation, but it's something that I do in my other programs. It's really figuring out what your money story was in terms of having you be in a place where you're having trouble receiving money now. And a good way to start that is to just go talk to somebody about what happened with money when you were growing up, what was it like, and get a start there to see how it's affecting your money right now. And another practical tip if you're a martyr is that period when you are when you're on the phone and you're asking for money or you're sitting in front of someone, you just want to hit the mute button. So as soon as you say, my program is $750, you hit the mute button, and then you can keep talking all you want. And you can keep telling them how great it is, and you can keep taking the prices down, but they're not going to hear it. And then you give them the moments to process the information, to be able to say yes or no, and then you can unmute yourself. And the same can be said if you're sitting in front of someone. I would just suggest you write a clipboard. You take a clipboard, and then you write the words shh on the clipboard, so that they know to get quiet at the appropriate moment. You know to get quiet at the appropriate moment. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so I just wanted to give you a chance because a lot of people, when I go through the money types, they want more. They want these written down. They want to be able to go over them with their partners because, if you're living with a saver and you're a spender, there can be some difficulties. So I wanted to let you know that that I'm sorry, this slide says toss your card to someone at your table, but since we're not at tables, I apologize. My assistant was supposed to switch this out. You can go and get the Money Magnet Kit, and it's at revenuebreakthrough.com/money magnet. revenuebreakthrough.com/money magnet, and you can pick it up since we're all at virtual tables at this point. revenuebreakthrough.com/money magnet, and that has a listing of all the types, and you can get further information about this. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're on to step 2, and we're going to go a little faster here because I want to give you some time for questions here at the end. And this is about money loves attention. And the most important thing that you can do for money, because it loves attention, is to track your revenue. So how do you track your revenue? So you can go to the next slide here. The first step to tracking your revenue is to get first a piece of paper. You're going to get a piece of paper, and at the top of the piece of paper, and it's easier if it's notebook paper, you're going to put a 60-day goal or a 90-day goal. And this you want to keep doing consistently from here on out. How much money do you want to generate in the next 60 or the next 90 days? So the top of your revenue tracking sheet, you put a goal, and then you put the due date of the goal, because we all know whatever we focus on grows. And I am continually surprised at how many business owners are running their businesses by focusing all of their attention on the money going out instead of the money coming in. It's very depressing. It's absolutely no fun, and it won't grow your business. Where you need to be focusing on is how am I going to consistently and continuously be generating more. So put that goal at the top of your tracking sheet, and then next slide. Then you want to create a revenue tracking sheet for yourself. And this is the same piece of paper. You're going to put the numbers 1 through 31 down the left side of the sheet of paper, and that stands for the days of the month. Every time you bring money in from any source, if it's $5,000 from your client or $20 from your grandmother, you put let's say it's $5,000 and it's the 5th of the month. You put $5,000 next to the number 5. Let's say on the 6th of the month you bring in $1,000. You put $1,000 next to the number 6. And you continue to tally it up. So you're going to have 2 tallies. You're going to add up how much you're bringing in per month, and then you're also going to have a tally towards your 60-day goal. So how are you doing towards your 60-day goal? Every day you're going to get really clear. You're going to know how much revenue you're generating, and you're going to turn this revenue generating thing into a game. The beauty of this game is that you're really going to start to understand how you focus on generating revenue and how much money you're making at each particular moment on each particular day. So then flip to the next slide. The third part of this is it's going to have you start to really focus on revenue generating activities. I really want you to get that the first 30 days that you do this, even the first 60 days that you do this, there's going to be a lot of zeros on your tracking sheet. And you're probably not going to remember my name, but you're going to curse it, right? You're going to start to be like, that girl, gosh, I just feel really bad about this. And know that that's totally normal, because there is no place where we are trained to actually generate revenue at every opportunity that we see. We're not trained to see revenue generating opportunities everywhere we go. But you're going to start to get better and better at this if your focus is generating revenue. So the thing you have to remember is that every day when you wake up for the next 60 days, you want to do 3 revenue generating activities before noon. So that means that you got to know what revenue generating activities are. So these include what revenue generating activities are not. Let's start there. What they are not is spending 16 hours making your website look prettier, resizing the photos that are going to go on your website for 4 hours, writing your blog post for 6 hours, going back and forth with a particular client to get her rescheduled and get her credit card changed for 2 hours, schlepping across the city to meet with someone for 2 hours, waiting at a Starbucks between meetings where you don't really have the ability to get work done for 3 hours. Yet these are all activities that we all are doing regularly. What are revenue generating activities? These are any activities that are going to lead to you getting a client. So this could be following up with clients, scheduling sales conversations, scheduling speaking events and workshops and getting free time at the end of them, doing partnerships and joint venture meetings so that they can refer people to you so that they can become your client. What you're thinking about here is, I know that there's lots of different kinds of businesses on the phone, so you have to think about where is that point at which where you ask for money and you generate revenue. What is that activity? For some of you, it might be meeting with other distributors to sell more of your product. For some of you, it might be having a meeting to get more exposure. Whatever that looks like, being really clear that you're going to be doing more of that and less of everything else in your business. Okay, keep moving forward. And keep moving forward. This is one of my clients, Kristen. She did this and had her first $10,000 week that way. The step 3 here is money loves consistency. So now that you know what type you are, you know how to track your revenue, you know what to focus on, now we need to do it consistently. So go ahead and go to the next slide here. This is a sample marketing checklist. And here's the thing. You go to a 9-to-7 job, right? And we've all been in them before, some of us, I guess, and most of us, before we started our companies. And at a 9-to-7 job, your manager is going to come up to you and she's going to say, here's what you need to get done. Here's how you're going to tell if you got it done. Here's your checklist and, of what needs to get done. And then you can meet with me on Wednesday and Friday to make sure it got done. Now, unfortunately, when we work for ourselves, we can literally work for 12 hours a day and still not get stuff done that needs to get done, not make a ton of money. I mean, we have all met tons of entrepreneurs that are working their little tails off and are still not getting the results that they want to from their businesses. And that's because if you're not doing the right things in business, you won't make the money you want to make no matter how hard you work. It's like at a job, you're going to get your salary even if you take a mental health day. But as an entrepreneur, you've got to know exactly what to do and when to do it. So one of the things I recommend is that you create a marketing checklist for yourself. And this one that I've put up on the screen here is a sample marketing checklist. And it really is for more of a service professional if you're doing anything in that area. So what that looks like is 3 sales conversations with potential meetings per week, 2 networking or connecting meetings per week, 1 conversation with a referral partner per month, 1 speaking event per month, and 1 teleseminar per quarter. So what I like to call that the 3-2-1-1-1 system for somebody who may want to get clients. Now, your marketing checklist could be completely different. What I'd like you to do, though, is make a checklist. What do you need to get done per week? What do you need to get done per month? And what do you need to get done per quarter? And some of you per year, in order to make sure that you're bringing leads in consistently and being able to ask for money consistently. I had another client who stood up at my Money 2.0 event last week, and she said, her 4-3-2-1 is 4 business events that she flies to per year, 3 sales conversations per week, 2 blog posts per month, and then she does 1 retreat every quarter with her client. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's what works for you. And Stacy, I know you just asked if people have time for questions here, and I'm absolutely happy to spend some time and even to just spend some extra time on here at the end if people have questions. Will you just flip to the last slide? Keep going. And so we'll flip to the last slide here, and flip to keep going here. Okay, perfect. Let's just stay there. The last part of this that I really want to get to is step 4 here, which is sales conversations, asking for money. And you're all going to be asking for money in different ways depending on what industry you're in and what business you're in. But I want you to remember that if you get to the end of a week and you haven't asked anyone for money, for all intents and purposes, your business was closed that week. And in a lot of cases, the reason that we're not asking for money is because we don't understand our own value. It's an internal piece. So if you see on the slide in front of you, this is what I call the Value Cascade. And this is a great exercise for any of you to do, whether you have a product, a service, a store, a restaurant. You want to find out what the value is truly on every level for what it is that you offer. So if what you do is lose weight, you might say, well, what I do is I help the client lose 15 pounds. That's all I did. But what you don't understand, right, that you're not looking at is from an emotional perspective, you have them create confidence and happiness and security. From a relationship perspective, you'll help them get married, maybe have kids now that they've lost weight. From a career perspective, you help them get a promotion or make more money. From a health perspective, you have them lower cholesterol, get off prescription drugs, avoid diseases, live longer. Right? So at the end of the day, you're doing so much more than just helping them lose 15 pounds. So I'd encourage you to do this exercise, even if it's just in your head or even if it's just a conversation that you have with a friend or a colleague. Look at what is your product or service doing for people on the emotional level, on a relationship level, on a career level, on a health level, on a future level. And know that you are going to have so much more confidence when you go into a sales conversation knowing that you're not just helping someone lose 15 pounds, you're helping them potentially get married, have children, and move into a new home. And that is worth every dollar that you're asking for your particular program, product, or whatever kind of thing that you are potentially selling in your business model. Let's go ahead and move forward. And then keep going. And keep going. Okay, so what I want to do here is make sure that you have my contact information, and then I also want to open up for questions. So you'll see the contact information on the screen. It's support@revenuebreakthrough.com is where you can connect with me. And I know that there may be some of you that are like, well, Monica, I really want to talk to you about my particular business situation. And if that is you, I've actually opened up 7 spots for savvy ladies who would like to speak to me about your particular situation and maybe get some help. And I call this a Revenue Breakthrough Strategy Session. And this is an opportunity for you to come on, talk to me about your business, tell me what your issues are, and then for me to help you resolve them and also see if there's some programs that would be a good fit for you and I. So go ahead and send an email to support@revenuebreakthrough.com if you would like to chat with me further. And now I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, so we've opened up the Meet Chat for anyone to type in any questions that they have. So if anyone has any specific questions, feel free to do this now. In the meantime, Monica, there were a couple that came up earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, of the techniques and strategies that you have, you went through the revenue tracker. The question is, of those, which of those are the most, I mean, there's a lot of different options here. Which do you find are the most effective ones?
Of all of the techniques that I just shared?
Of the general revenue generating tasks?
Oh, of the revenue generating tasks.
Yes.
Oh, question. It depends on what business you're in. But if you're trying to get clients, I think the best revenue generating activity is speaking events, getting in front of people and speaking to them, because there's obviously people are going to buy from you based on a know, like, and trust factor.
Mm-hmm.
You can shorten that with a speaking event. That's great. I think the second one is networking, being able to go out and connect with people just like people do at your events. And really being eye to eye with somebody and connecting with them. And then the third one I would say is teleseminars, things like we're doing right now where people can really learn about what you're doing and provide, and then from there they can decide if they want to connect and work further with you.
Great. Okay, so we have a question from Nancy Bolting. The question is, what is the best way to survey the market for the potential opportunity? Great question.
Nancy, I would ask more specifically, what do you mean for a potential opportunity? Do you mean learn about your target market? Is that what you're asking? In terms of surveying the market, I'm not quite sure I understand what you're asking. Do you?
Nancy, I just opened you up. You can answer. It's basically learning about the market.
Okay, so marketing research, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. You know what? I'm going to tell you what probably other people wouldn't, which is sales conversations. Go out to your marketplace and ask people to get into a conversation with you about, so what do you do, Nancy?
Nancy, you should be open. I opened you up. Hang on for a sec.
Okay, so Assuming, Nancy, that you sell a service or a product, the best thing you can do for yourself right now is to go out, to identify who your target market is, and then go out and actually ask people to speak to you. Sell the product, sell the service to them. And I am telling you, you learn so much about your target market when you're actually in the action of selling to them. You're going to get some rejections because you're not really going to know exactly what to say and how to say it. But I think that a lot of people do spend a lot of time doing marketing research where you can send out a survey.
Yeah. Nancy just actually mentioned that she's opening up a coffee shop.
Oh, okay. Great. So that's a little different than if you were doing, so if you're opening up a coffee shop, then I would use, there's a couple ways to do marketing research. You can send out surveys like SurveyMonkey, and there's also surveys online that you can send out to particular people who you think would be your customers or your target market. I also love doing focus groups. So, talking to people who could be your potential people, just a focus group is you get 10 or 12 of them together, you get them in a room, you talk to them. And a lot of my clients also do virtual focus groups where you send out emails to people and then you do like a webinar and everybody can see one another. They have this great thing now, like instant GoToWebinar allows everybody to see you can see everybody's picture, and you can actually talk to each other there and ask a bunch of questions and kind of see what their feedback is. And I'm assuming you're wanting more information about what kinds of things you have in the store, the coffee shop, and how you want to sell things.
Yeah, and Martha actually just chimed in and said that the SBA centers will order research for you free. So if you go back to the NYSSBDC.org. That's another free option.
Awesome. Great.
Okay, there was another question that came up from B. Jones. Wanted to discuss a little bit briefly in regards to, where was that question? The 4 focus areas, the relationship, tracking, consistency, and the other. She wanted to have you just, I guess, what was the 4th? Relationship, tracking, consistency, and...
I'm not sure. Those aren't, do you want to pop back a slide? I'm not sure what the focus areas on what slide? What is she asking about?
The 4 focus areas. There was relationship, tracking, consistency.
Oh, consistency and selling. That was the 4th point.
Okay. So of those, they're all very differently, but they're integrated. So what would you say is I guess if you had to prioritize them,
I mean, they all go together, but I would say to the beginning business owner in business that sales is the first skill you want to master, especially if you want to generate revenue quickly. And in a lot of cases, the reason business owners have trouble selling is because they've got money issues. So sales and the money stuff go together.
Perfect. I'm not sure if there's any other, I don't see any other specific questions that have come up, but again, Monica's website, she's invited you to email her at support@revenuebreakthrough.com. Also, I wanted to mention that, our intro speaker, Martha, from the Small Business Administration, you can find their website at www.sba.gov. I just really want to thank both of you. And Monica, this has been, I think, very helpful for a lot of people who really either are just starting out or even considering getting into it. I think it's been very useful. So thank you again for joining Savvy Ladies today. And for everyone else, I just really wanted to welcome you again for participating in this webinar. And please check out Savvy Ladies, which is www.savvyladies.org, and just keep if you haven't joined our newsletter, please do. We have upcoming programs that you'll see. We'll have a full list of programming coming out in the fall. So thanks again for joining, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Be well. Thank you. Thank you again, Monica.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody that's listening. I so appreciate it, and I just also want to, I really want everyone to get to that your money types and the money tracking piece, it's for everybody at every level. So know that if you're listening to this and you're an advanced business owner and you notice that you've got money stuff coming up around it, know that that's normal too. Because every time you grow in business, you'll have it. So it's a great thing to look at no matter where you are. Awesome. Thank you to everyone. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.